you, Darren?
Brett, I'm great because I'm speaking to a legend, and it is also coffee o'clock here.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time. I was looking, hey, when did I last speak to Brett? And it was July 2021. Back then, you'd only won 18 CCMA awards, and now it's 22. I can't say the average person I interview has won 4 CCMA awards in like a year and a half.
Well, I'm very grateful for that, and that you even remember that. I was just looking on your YouTube page. If you don't mind me twisting this and turning the compliments towards you, and
Okay.
in your conversations, I like with Terry Crews, and then obviously Tommy Lee, and then and the Beach Boys. You're wearing a Beach Boys t-shirt. Like, this is so special, and I love everything. I can't really see everything that's in the background, but it seems so. But it seems so well organized in terms of like how much great memorabilia and memories do you have behind you? Like, as you can tell, like I'm kind of the same kind of guy,
Yes.
So it's really cool, Darren. Congratulations on all your success.
Well, thank you, but it's a fine line between hoarding and collecting, and you never want to go to that hoard level. You have to go, what is the wife going to tolerate? And you go a little below that, and then every now and then it goes a little above that, and you have to get rid of a few things. But let's talk about you here. So the last time we were speaking, Make a Life Not a Living was the hit. It was breaking the charts. But then since then, you're like, yeah, I'm going to put out 4 albums in that whole, what do you call that? Series, a project.
Yeah.
I know it's called the Compass Project, but what would you call it? Because you can't say it's a trio of albums. It's like a quartet of projects.
Yeah, quad albums, and I kind of like saying quad albums because I grew up on a farm and we ride quads all the time. But the thing about it is that each one I haven't just doubled down the effort on these subgenres of country music. I guess quadrupled down on the effort, because that country music, as well as anybody, is, I think, the most encompassing genre of all, where you can really have heavy rock. Look at Corey Marks, look at Brantley Gilbert. Then you can have super pop. Look at Dan and Shay and Justin Bieber. Then you can have super country, which is Colter Wall. Then you can have heavy, and Hardy. Then you can have, like, there's all these different subgenres. So the ones that I love the most are the singer-songwriter side, and that's the East album of the Compass Project. Then I really love the traditional country, the Western stuff, the George Strait, honky tonk Western swing. That's the West album. Then you've got your straight ahead new country that is like perfect 2023 radio hit driven country. That's the South album. But my favorite of them all is live, like getting a chance to play live, hearing live albums, Luke Combs live on his Apple Music sessions, or any live album I love more often than their studio recorded stuff. So the live album is the North album. So it's really cool that I have 4 full-length albums coming out this year, and it's gaining so much momentum and anticipation with my fans on both sides of the border that I could have never predicted it would have been this fun or have had this type of reach so far.
So there's that, those 4 albums. There's the single and the related album, Make a Life Not a Living. You did an Amazon original or an Amazon exclusive track in the midst of all that. So it really does sound like you're writing every day. And I said, because some of my favorite bands can take 7 years between albums, but not you. Is it that you're writing every day?
You know what? I'd love to say yes, but the reality is that I write actually quite seldomly, but when I write, I get really good bursts of creativity where I can write, in a week's time, I can write 10 or 12 songs. And for me, there's a lot of songwriters that I look up to and I love that are all about quantity, because if they write 100 or 200 songs in a year, you're going to get 20 good ones. Whereas for me, with these creative bursts, I've now completely changed how I write songs, which has to be based on a feeling. Just because I have a great title doesn't mean I'm in the mood to write that song. And just because I feel like I've got a really good idea doesn't necessarily mean that I should bring this up on this particular day, writing on Zoom or in the room with this particular writer. I have a title, I know it's going to work really well with this potential collaborator. So I save that. And if I have to save that for a year, I will. The patience is important. And I've also started to write a lot more on my own. So because of that, it's on my own schedule. So on these 4 albums, there's going to be 44 songs. I think I wrote 30 of the 44. And of those 30, half of them I wrote by myself, which is a very old school way of doing it. Like I think Alan Jackson wrote pretty much just by himself. Mm-hmm. And I never had the balls to do it, but now why not? You know, you're either going to love the song or you're not. What does it matter? So I love the song, so let's put them out.
Your publisher must be happy with you, because a lot of the ways that publishing deals are structured is you have to give us 12 songs every 2 years or something like that. And here you're going, here's 40.
Well, so that's very interesting, because my publisher and publishers that I've had in the past, I think are more disappointed in me right now. And the reason why is because when I was signed, I barely fulfilled my commitment of songs, my allotment of songs.
The
I was very
MDRC,
busy on the road.
I think it's called.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My deliverables. Yes. So because I barely did that, and then I didn't have a publishing deal anymore. I did, you know, we separated in the best possible way, but we separated. Now all of a sudden I don't have a publishing deal. I own all my own rights. And now I'm all of a sudden very creative. They're like, Brett, where was this creativity in 2016 when we were paying you 60 grand a year, you know? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I didn't have it then. And I now realize that when I am telling you that I've really switched my perspective on songwriting, it's because songwriting was a job at that time. I loved it. I learned so much. I would never, ever, ever take away those beautiful moments, but it was a job. And when you're waking up at 8 in the morning, you're writing a song at 9:30 or 10, and you got to be done by 4. How much space do you really have to be creative in those senses? For me, anyway. Of course, a hit song is written every day on Music Row in that format, right? But it wasn't for me. So I'm really grateful that I just have this freedom, and freedom is a very, very special and powerful thing.
So something you mentioned earlier, that sometimes you have the title. Is it primarily that the song title comes first?
Yes, almost always for me. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So when you have that song title, do you then hear it in your head, or do you then have to tool around on a guitar?
It's both, but I definitely have an idea in my head of what this is going to become, because a title says so much. And I'm a student of many different genres, and especially country music, that when you hear a song called I Like It, I Love It, I Want Some More of It. Well, you have to imagine that it's probably going to be up-tempo, a song that sounds good in the bar at 11 p.m. at night. Yet, if you hear that song and it's a slow piano ballad, it doesn't make sense. Whereas if you hear the song by Tim and Faith, just to talk about them both, It's Your Love. It just does something to me. It actually has to be that beautiful, slow piano ballad that just tears on your heartstrings. So I know immediately what the song is going to be, and what melody needs to pair with that lyric, so that way it's the listener just immediately gets it. It's safe, it's comfortable. And so that's something that I always do. You start with the title, and then you find what melody is going to best suit that title.
Wow. Okay. So you've basically evolved into being your own industry at this point. If you're saying how often you're going to put out the albums and when you're going to tour, the early days of your career, I'm sure, is more listening to the management and listening to the label and them saying, you can't do that. Am I right about that? That it's now you as the CEO?
Yeah, it was very collaborative in the beginning. And I have to say, for the record, that my record deal with Warner Music was the best decade I could have ever asked for. All that being said, all of my heroes later on in their career, or at certain peak times of their career when they're very much in their prime, either had an opportunity to build upon things on their own or keep riding the wave. And often, very often, when a new artist comes into the fold at the label, they're not the shiny and new thing anymore. So they're trying to stay relevant 10 or 15 years into their career. And you actually start to see them do this. You actually start to see them actually start to trend downwards. And that is something that I was acutely aware of and I didn't want to have happen for my career, especially what I've built up in Canada. So because of that, I saw the writing on the wall that as a lot of my team members at the record label were retiring, or based on financial crunches during the lockdowns and the pandemic had lost their job.
Right.
All of a sudden I had this team of 12 people that is now down to 2, and I'm doing 90% of the work for 10% of the money. That is just not good business. So
Right.
we flipped it, bought myself out of the record deal, took all of my rights back for this new era. And now, yes, I have all the risk for sure. And if these records don't do well, I go deeply into the hole. I'm flat broke. My career is over because I can't sustain it because I don't have the millions and millions and millions that a record label would have. But if you, the best bet to ever make in life is to bet on yourself. So I've bet on myself with 10 years of incredible knowledge and lessons learned from an extraordinary record label that I still have great friendships with. But now it's a time for me to spread my wings and fly like Dolly Parton did, or like George Strait did, or like Garth Brooks did in my own way. So I'm very happy walking this road on my own right now.
You just mentioned a bunch of country examples, but Dave Mustaine, who was on your album a couple of years ago, it's a similar deal with him, where he became Megadeth more or less, and he didn't always need a major label, and he's calling all the shots. Did he ever give you business advice?
I don't think he realized that he was giving me business advice when we were talking. There was a really special drive I took with him. And everything happens for a reason. We were going to be riding. I took my wife and my daughter. We only had one child at the time, to Scotland, and I was writing songs for Electra, his daughter, and we had our own vehicle. And so because we had our own vehicle, and it ended up being like our castle that we were staying at was like 3 hours away from Glasgow with the Mustaine family. Well, we realized that, okay, well, Dave had a couple of days off, but he had no way to get to the castle. So I'll go pick him up. So I drove to Glasgow, picked him up, and on that 3-hour drive up to the castle, we just talked about life. And of course, his life is completely intertwined with music, and my life is completely twisted up with music as well. So a lot of the lessons that he taught me about family and how to put things into perspective, what are your priorities? You know, are you saving enough money? Do you realize you're in the good old days right now? Or are you going to look back on it and say, oh shit, I should have saved more. I should have done more while I was in my, like, he just asked me these questions that I had been asked before. And so I'm so grateful for that time with him. And I hold him in very, very high regard and respect him greatly for that time he spent with me.
Well, I have a question that has nothing to do with the Compass Project, and that's the moose head behind you. Does that say Deuce Vodka, and is that your brand?
Yeah, so I'll show you. So it's a big deer. It's not a moose, but this is one of the first deer I got.
Pardon that American ignorance for not knowing it's
no,
a deer,
that's fine.
right?
Just a beautiful. No, that's okay. It's a northern Saskatchewan whitetail. And love that. So yeah, and here's a branded fridge. So Deuce Vodka is the company that I own with one of my best friends, Matt. So it's doing really well. And we have a couple of flavors as well. Neon flavor, of course, I'm a country singer, so go figure. And then we have an economy line called Backcountry. So it's in a plastic bottle. But if you've got if you're just of age, and of course in Alberta, it's 18. If you just turned 18 and you don't have like $35 for a bottle of vodka, you grab that one because it's $16. So yeah, it's doing really well. The entrepreneurial spirit is flowing through my veins. I'll tell you that.
Are there other ventures that you have that you're allowed to talk about besides the music and the vodka, or hey, between that and the kids and the family, that's enough?
You know, there's a lot. I love the business side of things. I love everything that I'm doing. We're in talks right now with a brewery and winery that I want to invest in. Out in Eastern Canada. And then the family farm that I was able to, help purchase in the last couple of years. That's been in our family for over 100 years. There's a way to really get into organic beef right now, as a lot of grocery stores.
Yeah.
Obviously they've got, I'm certain that they do their best, but the prices of beef and of chicken and of all the meats that we love is just continuing to go higher and higher and higher. So if you're going to be paying a high price anyways, it may as well be the best quality meat that you can have. And we've got, well, thousands of acres up in northeastern Alberta. So why not put organic cattle there? And I'm working with a couple of chefs right now in Canada to do a co-op. So it's not, it's not really, it is farm to table, but it's chef raised. So they know how to finish the beef often better than I do. So that's about a year or two away, but I think we're really going to get into, organic beef. We've got the vodka company. I've got a whiskey company now called Backcountry Whiskey. So the entrepreneurial spirit, I almost feel like Shaquille O'Neal. Like Shaq is a great NBA star, but he has like 100 different business ventures, and it's kind of same thing with me.
Yeah, recapping that, 4 albums in basically a year with other one-offs, the vodka, the whiskey, the farm, the possible food venture. It is Shaq adjacent in terms of where you look to be heading. But the last question that I have for you before I let you go, I learned about Alberta beef from watching Letterkenny, that it's the finest.
Yes, absolutely.
What is the greatest Canadian comedy of all time? Because we as Americans, we were 3-4 years late to Schitt's Creek. I think we're 3-4 years late to Letterkenny. So I figured you got to go to that the CCMA award-winning artist and find out what is the greatest in comedy.
Well, I do have to say Schitt's Creek. I just thought it was the most unique plot that has been in television possibly ever. And the way that, Johnny Rose and Moira and honestly, are you kidding me? The character development and everything that it was a show that never got old for me. And I wish that they would have continued it for many, many more seasons. I think that Dan and Eugene Levy are geniuses. I'm so impressed with what they created. So I will say that Schitt's Creek is probably the greatest comedy to ever come out of Canada. When you're saying other comedies, I was thinking about other movies, but these are all American movies with Canadian stars like Jim Carrey or Seth Rogen or Mike Myers. And even, obviously Ryan Reynolds is an extraordinary actor and everything that he's done. So, but I will say, if you're asking about a show, it's Schitt's Creek, period.
I can't top that. I think you're right about that one. Well, Brett, will we see you in New York anytime soon, or do we just have to keep checking the Instagram?
Well, I mean, on a personal level, yes. I mean, I'm very excited with what the Rangers have done, adding Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. So I would love to get out to Madison Square Garden and watch this new squad play. So playoff tickets are going to be hard to come by, but it's been probably 2 or 3 years since I've been to New York, actually since before COVID. So I want to come to New York for sure, even if it's just for a personal trip. I've had a couple of opportunities to perform in New York. It's just never been the right moment or the right opportunity. But when it happens, I'd love for you to be there. There's no denying that. I mean, I think I got a show in Buffalo, but I don't know if you want to, where are you based?
Long Island, New York. Buffalo is an hour and a half flight, or probably a 10-hour drive. But
so it's not. Yeah, no, I understand. You're in Long Island. So also the Islanders. I've been a good friend of mine lived in Garden City for many years. So he played for the Islanders named Jordan Eberle. So we would watch a lot of games at Nassau Coliseum, and it was a lot more fun watching them in Long Island than it was watching them where the Nets play. In Brooklyn.
Exactly. My town has a Boston Bruin originally from here, Charlie McAvoy, I believe his name.
Yeah.
So every now and the Rangers also used to practice in this town, Long Beach, Long Island, New York, in this little skating rink on the bay. So if you ever come out here, we'll show you the rink. But bottom line is, congratulations on just growing and growing, whether or not you're on a major, and really looking forward to whatever's to come from you in the near future, Brett.
Well, thanks, buddy. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see you face to face in Long Island before too long.
Paltrocast.